Okay. I appreciate you making the big switch. It's all about student engagement, right?
Changing up their environment to see how they deal with.
That's right. Being flexible. So anyway, I'll go ahead and get started. There might be a few other people that may drop in, and but I want to be conscious of your time today too. And so I very much appreciate you taking some time to come and visit with us and listen to our discussion on rethinking higher education spaces. I know time is valuable, so thank you. Really appreciate it. My name is Kyle Countryman, and I'm the director of the Education Resource Sales Team at Interior Design Services, or IDS. And we have a team of 9 people that focus strictly on our education clients in Middle Tennessee. And so we do everything from design, plan to advise, consult on education spaces, facilities, and whatnot. So we can help you in all different aspects. A couple folks here with me today who are both MTSU grads, so that's good. Heather Cavett, she is your account project manager, so she is the person that works with MTSU on a day-to-day basis. And it just so happens that Heather was employed here for 6 years in the campus and space and facilities department. So she's had firsthand experience with designing some of your classrooms and spaces. So I heard you were her best client.
That's an accurate statement.
That's good. And Jenny Tatum is joining us too. She has been with IDS 7 years, 8 years? 10. Okay, well time flies, Jenny. Good grief. But Jenny is our workplace consultant, and she is a resource to our clients, as well as to us internally, as well as to architectural design firms that you might be engaged with, working on your various projects. And Jenny can help with anything from finding research papers to design to product applications, products, anything that might be necessary to help work through a solution that you might be looking for. So, and then we have a whole team of folks back at the office that supports all the things we do with all of our clients. So, just a little bit about me. I've been in the industry a little while, obviously, since 1980. And I've worked with corporate, healthcare, and education clients, both from a design perspective, from a sales perspective, facilities perspective, and I've been focusing just on education clients for the last 5 years. So, and I came to IDS about 7 years ago and was formerly with a company called Steelcase, who we'll reference here in just a second. So, you want this to be your session, don't hesitate to stop me, ask questions. If I don't have the answer, then we'll jot it down and we'll find out. Okay. Sound fair enough? So we wanted to talk a little bit about rethinking higher education spaces today. We do a lot of work with clients, education clients, and the perspective we're going to take is one that is a Steelcase perspective. And Steelcase, just to inform you as to who they are the world's largest manufacturer of commercial furnishings for corporate, healthcare, and education clients. They're an international company, certainly world-class. They're based in Grand Rapids, Michigan. They're truly a leader in the industry. So they've done a lot of research around the world of education, and certainly we'll talk about some of that today. So the majority of the content today is from Steelcase Incorporated. And so the perspective that we're going to take today in this discussion is that we're going to look at some trends and issues first that are happening within the world itself, then within the world of learning, and within the world of your students or your learners, and how those may have an impact on the learning spaces that we're seeing on campuses and universities today. So we'll kind of frame everything in that perspective as we go through discussion today. Going to first look at the world. There's some major trends happening out in the world that certainly impact our lives. They impact the world of education, certainly. But I'd like to ask you all, what do you think are some major trends that are impacting the world of education? And who would mind jotting it down on one of those please? Anyone? Heather's going to. Okay. Horrible speller. Okay.
Yeah, me too. So
You're off the
correct
hook.
me as I go.
You're completely off the hook. So, what do you think are some major trends or issues impacting our world, thus the world of education? Don't be shy. No right or wrong answer. Time. Interesting. Okay. There's not enough of it, is there?
For students, especially between school and work, family, and sometimes immediate family-child obligations.
Sure. Interesting. That's anything else?
Technology in general, technology and how connected, access information.
We're all interconnected, aren't we? Some form of fashion. Yeah, amazing.
So with that distraction.
That ties right into technology. Some people would call it disruptive technologies. No one might have to take off the jacket. A little warm. Anything else? Is the world shrinking? Yes. How would you term that?
Or Skype.
Sure. Interesting. So obviously technology is one of the major drivers for all of us. It impacts everything we do in our lives and certainly at school. Sometimes I hop in my car and I think I'm driving a computer. It's just incredible. So we'll look at some of the issues and trends surrounding technology, and the other, we're only going to focus on two today: technology and globalization. There's certainly many other factors, economies, time, you name it. But we're going to focus just on technology and globalization today and some of the trends in there. If you think about technology, we're certainly adopting and adapting to new technologies all the time. So, for instance, this slide shows the adoption rate for various technologies we've adopted in the past to reach 25% of the U.S. population in years. So as you can see, electricity, took 45 years to reach 25% of the U.S. population. Compare that to PC, which took only 16 years to reach 25%. And then compare that to either mobile phone or internet at 13 and 7. Wow, things are getting faster. So what we're doing is we're adopting new technologies all the time, not only adopting, but adapting to them as well in increasing numbers and at accelerating speeds. So can you imagine, what do you think the number is for 25% adoption population of iPads? Less than what?
Less than 7.
There you go. That was a clue. I never looked at it that way. Actually, it's 2.5 years.
Is that iPads only or all tablets?
That's iPads only. So just interesting. I mean, I would have said what you said, 5 years, 6 years, whatever. But then that's just not the case. So obviously, things are accelerating all the time. Text messaging, holy cow, that's That's a mess. I don't know. Anyone care to venture how many text messages are sent or received each and every day? As of 2013, don't. 27 billion. And that exceeds the world population. And so any of you who deal with students obviously know texting is completely a way of life or a distraction in the classroom or at the dinner table or wherever it might be. But it's forever changed the way in which students exchange information, how they communicate, and it's certainly prominent in our daily lives and certainly in students' lives.
Do any of your students text you out of curiosity? I was shocked when I taught a couple of classes the first time I received a text message from a student. I asked my husband, is this appropriate? And he said, yes, I think it is actually appropriate now. I think, it seems appropriate to me, but I think it's the way things are evolving.
Well, I didn't text until about a year and a half ago, and now it's frightening how many times I send a text to either family, friends. I have family all over the country, and it's become a very easy way to say, thinking about you. So I can only imagine for students, saying hi to mom and dad or all the friends or their classmates or all of you. But,
I do because my students don't read email.
okay.
They
No.
just don't.
Yep. That's,
So do you text them as well? Like, you'll initiate a text.
I haven't done group text yet, but that's coming.
Is it?
If they're working on a project, we'll do text because they're not going to look at their email.
Yeah.
Because they have to get their computer out. They don't want to look at their phone.
it's just too much
They'll
trouble.
text back.
Interesting. So how many of you are on Facebook? Do you Facebook with your students?
I don't mind if they follow me. I know a lot of my colleagues have secret accounts and they will not let their students ever see them.
I struggle with
I
that.
teach new media.
Oh, you do? Okay, well, okay.
I don't really have that.
No fair, no fair.
I have to be transparent.
So, I mean, and it's not just Facebook, it's every other social network that's out there, but it's forever changed our lives. And certainly students are on there. I know there's discussion that younger people are leaving Facebook and going to others, but then there's plenty of us that are on there still. I don't think, I'm one of those 1 billion users, I think. So, and I fought it for the longest time and then finally just said, I guess I should do that. So, so what year was the iPad introduced?
2008. I worked at Apple, so I started in 2011. And it might be 2010. I think
You might have to leave this
before.
seminar.
Yes.
It was introduced in 2000. And so the point being, downloadable text, or textbooks, I should say, have replaced a lot of printed material. I know one of our colleagues, her daughter attends FRA middle school. And this year, it's all iPads, all downloadable textbooks. And so, for me, I can't hardly even believe that because I'm a book lover and I still buy books, and I'm fighting downloading books. But for students, downloading textbooks has become a way of life, and some say they could be a thing of the past. What's your perception here? Do you have downloadable textbooks, or
am I the only instructor? Okay, so you all don't want to hear this. My students don't buy their textbooks.
okay?
No, they just don't buy them. They don't rent them either. About half my students buy a textbook.
Oh,
Whether
printed
it's,
At all.
At all.
at all?
At all. So
So what do? Do they just use the
Fake it.
internet for fake it? Okay.
we just fake it. Yeah. They expect me to teach to. They expect me to teach or lecture to them. So this year I kind of fooled them out. I'm not doing that this year. When you come to your room, you're going to do projects. You need to read the book on your own.
Okay.
Some of them are doing it, some not.
Interesting.
With my son's elementary school, they give them a computer in fourth grade with all their books on it. Because it's a whole lot lighter to carry around than a backpack full of 50 pounds of books.
Well, and it's easily updated. It needs to be updated.
Next semester, I'm thinking about doing a class rather than off of one book, doing it off of 4 or 5 books that are all available in Kindle stores.
Okay.
And all at about $10 a piece. And they would basically, we would go through those books. It's a survey class, so we would use those books as our text. And they would do it electronically. It's a survey of an immediate class, so for me to have a printed book in that class is it's okay, but it's sort of against the grain.
Against the media, yeah.
Yeah.
The media and technology that's available to us. Globalization is one of the other things that we see, have issues and trends that are impacting the world. I mean, certainly demographics of students are changing. For instance, 40,000 Chinese undergraduates are enrolled in U.S. schools. That poses a lot of questions, or at least it does to me, about how do you accommodate different cultures, how does it affect your teaching, are there language barriers, are there special accommodations on campus for foreign students? It just poses a whole variety of questions that need to be addressed. And I think Heather has some information related to MTSU.
I did. I tried to do a little MTSU specific research to tie into the presentation. And from the research I found, MTSU has a little over 700 international students who were enrolled last spring, and then a little over 100 of those were from China specifically. How do you see that impacting how you teach your classes?
Well, I noticed just parking my car and walking here, I saw several different cultures just walking from my car into this building. So you're certainly following the global trend. And college students studying abroad have increased. Obviously, you can see from the slide from 1980 to the projection, to 2007, we're up by 2 million plus students. And what our studies have found is that students are expecting to have these life experiences as part of their education. They want the multicultural experience, and it enhances their learning. But even though they might be in a different country, just like the Chinese students are here, everyone's still connected. Like one of you were saying, no matter where you are, you can Skype. So you're immersed in a different culture in your learning, but you're still interconnected, so the world's really getting smaller. So we find that to be true, and I think MTSU follows suit with that.
They do, and it shows, I guess, 400 students last year at MTSU studying abroad, according to the data, and then which is about a 10% increase from the previous year, and then all of it shows, an increase, of course, like every other institution, for students going to study abroad every year.
It's Todd, right?
Yes.
Todd, are you the only instructor?
Okay.
Oh, okay. Do you have students that study abroad, or would that apply to, I would assume it would apply to media, but I don't know.
I'm meeting one in a day or two. He's going to Russia for the spring semester.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
And I have an Egyptian student as an advisee.
Oh.
She's been here quite a while. She went to learn Turkish.
Oh, I could have used your help in Turkey about a year and a half ago.
She's thrilled. We're offering a Turkish class in the spring, so she's psyched about it.
I was trying to do my email in Istanbul, and it kept coming up in Turkish. It was really difficult. I recognized the Yahoo symbol, but that was about it. So, the next series of slides are just food for thought, interesting to ponder. So if you think of globalization, but think of the world as if it had 100 people, as if that were the world. And just got a few statistics to share with you. 82 of those people would be able to read and write. 61 would be Asian. 52 would speak other languages. 50 would be male and 50 would be female. 13 would be African. 12 would be European. How many do you think would speak English?
5 or 10%.
Okay, 8. Seven would speak Spanish. That's amazingly close. 4 would speak Russian. And how many do you think would have a college degree? I just found that really interesting because I would have thought it would have been much higher. I just can't imagine only 1 in 100 people having a college degree. It just seems there's so many higher education institutions. I just would have thought that was much higher. I was blown away by that. And, so I find that particularly interesting. So I guess there's a lot of room for new admissions and expansion of higher education for folks getting degrees. I've just got a series of questions here. Is your campus ready? I mean, that's just a phrase. But we wanted to talk for just a minute, sort of just as an interactive discussion. Does MTSU leverage the benefits of technology to connect learners, instructors, and information, regardless where they might be at? Do you do a good job at that?
How about pockets?
Pockets? What do you think those pockets would be? Specific areas or subjects? Initiatives?
I don't know. Trying to maybe some objects, obvious subjects, but individuals who are interested.
Yeah. So sporadically. Okay.
We offer a number of online classes.
Yep.
Other schools offer, other colleges and the university offer the Regents online degree program.
Mm-hmm.
That's all online.
Well, that would be certainly leveraging technology to your advantage.
Do all the classrooms have technology access? Like, I know the master classrooms and things together. Is there some way to connect to that technology?
What is technology access?
Well, that means anything, Wi-Fi, actually a physical connection in the wall, using some kind of projector. I mean, is that seen in every classroom across the campus? Other classrooms?
There's supposed to be Wi-Fi in every classroom.
There's Wi-Fi on campus.
There's Wi-Fi on campus. There's supposed to be in every classroom, not in faculty offices or administrative offices. But the Wi-Fi on campus, somebody just recently said it's good enough, just enough to make you laugh.
Oh,
There,
really?
but it just
You can see
and
it.
part of it is they can't keep up with the demand in IT because it's not just a computer that's connecting to it or one people.
In our office.
Yeah, people are connecting with their iPad Mini, and then their cell phone is in their pocket, and then they have a laptop over here. Yeah, and I think they're looking at up to 8 items that one person might be carrying on them that's trying to connect. Not all of our classrooms have technology in the fixed technology. We do have a second layer of about 40 master classroom cards that faculty do not like, but it fits something in there until we can put the fixed technology in.
So is it something that you want to check out or something that
Depends on the department. Like one department, English, has several classrooms that don't have any technology at all. They have 2 cards. Faculty doesn't want them, they can go roll it in and roll it out. Sometimes we just fix the card in the classroom because that ensures that the card can kind of work regularly because they're kind of temperamental. In the classrooms, there's been a few classrooms with just like a smart board with a plug-in, so you put the laptop in. And then there's classrooms, the English department, especially I work in tech hall underneath them. They don't need technology every time they teach. They're teaching a writing course or something, they need a small classroom that doesn't need much technology. But they're going further and further where they actually need that now. So
that's what I was curious, just to expand. Initially it was just just the classes you're teaching need it, and now it's At one point, English, yeah, they said they didn't need it 2 years ago, but
Now they're,
they do.
yeah.
And with the universities and organizations we work with, it's just keeps increasing.
Right.
In terms of what's required. So how does MTU prepare learners for a role in the global economy? And that's a very general question. But through curriculum or companies coming into the group or special initiatives. When we talk about course study, anyways,
In MassCom, we have a couple of courses on global media.
we do.
We just had a class go to Florence, Italy last summer, and they shot 3 documentaries, which actually just won all sorts of awards at a festival here last Saturday, Sunday. They're going to Paris next summer to do the same kind of thing. I have plans to figure out how I can do a study abroad, making the digital media probably print to make it easier.
Yeah.
Language-wise.
Sure.
But in mass comm, that's about all we do. We don't do any multi-language programming. I came from San Antonio, so we very often did Spanish programming. The city is 65% Hispanic.
Yeah, sure. That's interesting. I lived in San Antonio for 6, 7, 8 years. Familiar with USA Insurance there?
Former employee.
Oh, I did all their facilities all over the country.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Huge project that took 6 years of my life for 23,000 people
There you go.
all across the country. It was really fascinating, and I'm still friends with most of those people. So can you accommodate the needs of a global student body? The answer is obviously yes. You're starting to have more and more international students, but can you think of any specific ways in which you're doing that? Organizations or cultural centers on campus?
We've been Confucius Institute, and stated title of it, over international students. It reports to the president.
There's a number of student clubs. There's a Japanese
Okay.
club. There's a, I want to say there's an Arabic club.
Mm-hmm.
So typically American students, but there's a mix there.
Sure.
Japanese club only speaks Japanese.
I see. Okay. So that ties right into the next question about the multicultural learning experience. So it sounds like you do have initiatives and things happening around that arena.
I'd like to go back to the last question.
Sure.
I'd say no.
No?
I don't think we did that last question.
That's all I did to the first.
This is not new media. This is just generally. And
So you're
I'm not
saying
this
no.
out of turn, but so most of my students are white
Mm-hmm.
with maybe 5% black.
Okay.
Typically no foreign students. I've had one foreign student in a year and a half. Chinese student. And he was a senior, and I'm surprised to see him in the class because he was in white. I don't think he was even major. So I wish there were a lot more things because there are a lot of other things happening in India and other countries. Higher use of cell phones and text messaging for transactions, using text messaging to buy code.
Well,
It's tough enough getting them to learn cultural learning. It's, beyond multi-cultural learning.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's interesting. I relate that last question. I was very fortunate. Back in the 60s, I grew up in Hawaii. I was really the only white person in the class. And so, that's Hawaii? Hawaii, yes. And so, I was with Asian, Filipino, Tahitian, Hawaiian, and you name it. And, at the time I thought it was difficult, but certainly understand the benefit that with all different cultures. You learn so much, So I see a real benefit to that. Let's just look quickly at we had on our perspective slide, we had the world. Now we're going to take a look at some trends in learning. And these probably will not surprise you in any respect, but the amount of technical information is doubling every 2 years. And So to me, that's frightening, number one. How big does my brain have to get? But if you think about the impact that has on faculty and students and the amount of information they have to receive and digest and then turn into something, or whether that be a course lesson or incorporating it into their curriculum, that's a lot of information to absorb and digest. I found this really kind of frightening. That for students, half of what they learn in year one will be outdated in 3 years.
I would imagine that's particularly true in the area that you teach.
I'm trying to keep up.
Right.
I warn my students that,
Yeah.
that just, because I actually ask my students, is anything I'm teaching right now new media? And they go, no, just the media I have.
Well,
But tomorrow's going to change, and that won't be new either.
right.
It's just going to be what I have.
Exactly. And so really, it's just fascinating to think that it could be outdated in 3 years or is outdated in 3 years, because oftentimes the faculty is learning the information right along with the students. So how do you determine what to put in that, that curriculum
What the trends
to make it relevant, or will it be outdated by the time you already insert it in your curriculum? I mean, it's fascinating to think about.
Story of a teacher had a first grade class. They spelled we, like, we sitting at this table, W-I-I. And they know how to, level up as they would in games. So when they get graded, they get a better grade, they've leveled up.
Oh my goodness.
So I told my students, you understand that those people, those are your employees. So you're going to have to figure out how to work with those people. The way I have to figure out how to work with you. And I've stayed pretty current with faculty. It's hard to keep faculty current with everything that's going on besides everything we have to do.
I met with a teacher recently. She actually wanted to come work for us in the education department because she was so fed up with trying new teaching pedagogies and styles and methods that the school wanted her to use without giving the proper tools and or instruction development to do that. And she'd been a teacher for like 15 years and loved teaching. I need to follow up with her and see what happened to her. She's just trying to keep up with everything. It's just incredible. I find this kind of interesting too, that we're currently preparing students for jobs that don't exist, using technologies that haven't been invented, as you well know, in order to solve problems that we don't even know are problems yet. I mean, that's the speed at which the world is moving, and all of this information is shifting so rapidly. How do we know what to teach students, if we can't even predict the future? I mean, it's a real challenge for everyone. And I think for a lot of people, a lot of faculty or instructors, I think they're trying to develop a broader set of skills in some cases that they can teach the students, sometimes referred to as 21st century skills that they can leave college with and go out into the global working environment. But I was thinking of what's something that fits this. Can you think of an example where we're preparing students for jobs that don't yet exist using a technology that maybe hasn't been invented yet in order to solve problems we don't think are problems? I mean, can you think of anything in recent history that might fit that? Well, I'll talk. I don't want to keep talking either.
So 7 years ago, if this university had been teaching new media, meaning leading edge, YouTube, social media, etc., we would have been that. Okay. But this year, me teaching new media is not really cutting edge. In fact, I've been thinking hard about this. But I've been thinking hard about this is that I see what I'm teaching, new media, it's a separate major within mass comm. It's its own concentration, that what I teach actually needs to be integrated across our entire mass comm curriculum, in fact, probably over the entire curriculum of the entire university. So my job, my tenure track job, my dream job is actually in jeopardy to a certain extent because of that. Because it used to be you hire a social media manager. Well, the trend of business right now is that everyone does social media, and there is no manager of social media. It's the marketing VP, or it's the technology VP, or it's the training VP. That's who's in charge, and social media is just one other little tool in their tool belt. So,
Very interesting.
yeah, it's
Something I thought of, and you may agree or disagree, but when I was thinking about it, I was thinking about 3D printers. Okay, I was thinking it's all I can do to print on a flat piece of paper on my printer at home. So I was thinking 3D printers. I never would have ever dreamed we'd be able to print 3D. Okay, so that's a technology. And now
this library has one.
And now, well, and now
Yeah, we got one.
now some people are using 3D printers to create things that can hurt people. So that was a problem I never would have thought would ever existed without printing something that you could create a weapon.
But on the other side, there's a new three-wheel car that's 3D printed, except for the engine and the wheels itself. Everything else is 3D printed using carbon fiber and metal. Yeah, so it's like, what?
Yeah, so that's what I thought of. When I think of this, it's like just 3D printing seems just crazy to me anyway. But
even when I went to visit Harpeth Hall a couple of weeks ago in their elementary school, and they have students already designing stuff and printing it
Oh, yeah.
in 3D.
Yeah. We're actually just at,
It really scares me with the kids.
they'll print 3D animals and.
I know. One of our teachers said, "Look at this. Look at my student. Just."
Yeah.
You know,
and we're
put
just
it
at
out
the
for
laser
them.
writer stage. We're like at the first laser printer stage. We haven't gotten to the desktop publishing stage or the
Right.
the color stage or the inkjet stage. I mean, they print cells using inkjet technology. So it's we're not even close to
No,
what's
no.
gonna happen.
And back to that slide about adopting and adapting to new technologies, it's just within seconds now, it seems, in some cases. But this slide is all about what CEOs are looking for in graduates, and it comes from a study from IBM, and creativity topped the list, which is interesting. Integrity at 52% was second, which I'm thrilled to see that's included. That makes me personally very happy. And 35% said global thinking.
Does that mean only 52% of employees have integrity?
Well, I won't go there. That's scary to even think about. But
2% of leaders think that's
yes, there's several ways to interpret this, right? But so really what came out of the study is that corporations are looking for undergraduates coming into the workplace that can be nimble leaders, think creatively, lead teams, and collaborate effectively and creatively in an ever-increasing global environment. I mean, that's when you think about it, like I mentioned, Steelcase. I'm thinking about a recent video call I have with Steelcase. I have one monthly. Now, the video calls with Grand Rapids, but involve a chair product that's being launched in 82 countries around the world, and I can't remember the number of patents they had to get, but it was the first time they launched a product simultaneously around the world. But here I'm on this call, and we're talking about the world, not just Grand Rapids, Michigan, and Nashville, Tennessee, and how that impacts things. So it's like a global team. So employers, are, this slide says demand. I don't know, that might be a bit strong, but they're asking for students coming into the workforce to have 21st century skills. And I know the list is pretty long, but what do you think some of those skills are?
Working on a computer.
Yeah.
buttons to press, in what order to create sentences and paragraphs. When to hit
Too much.
no, when to hit the comma key, because the comma is needed right there.
Right.
And how to know what two, and two are, and there are 3 different words, which one to use. Writing skills, being able to really write, because social media is all, the media we have today is all writing. It's all writing, whether it's texting or putting a site, website up or whatever, it's all writing. And that's really, really
Skill and pleasure.
the cooperative.
Globally aware.
Self-learning. Being able to learn on your own rather than being taught.
Yep. We're surprises, Heather.
Have an apple.
And then something around technology, and it's sort of like creativity, but the ability, it's the ability to not be afraid of technology, to be able to say, okay, this is new, I don't really get that, but not going, well then, I'm not going to use it. A lot of students are very much like I would think their grandparents would be, looking at a cell phone. Oh no, I don't need a cell phone. And students sometimes look at stuff and go, oh no, I don't need to learn that now. I don't know if it's overload or whatever, but it's they're just.
Well, I guess it's kind of that self-talk
Yeah.
kind of thing. You are not afraid to go in and
Figure it
then
out.
when your boss says, we've got this new, really cool software that I know nothing about, so you're going to go figure it out. And because in the corporate world, that's what happened to me. And I figured it out, and then I was the only person that could use that software, so I got to grace it. So,
Yeah.
Do you think that's something that can be taught, or do you think that's something that's just inherent in the makeup of a person?
It's a very long discussion.
Jenny, we only have till 2:30.
But that's something that we struggle with internally in our company. We hire these great people, and I do a lot of interviewing for our department, and I think that this person is great, and then they get there, and I would expect that if they didn't have anything to do, they would get up and say, hey, can I help you? Or, hey, I'm doing this. And they don't. They just sit there. And a lot of it, and these are people that are 10 years younger than me. I don't, but some of it I'm like, is it a generation? Is there that big of a generation gap in 8, 10 years? Is it just that I'm a different type of person than, it's an interesting, some of these skills I don't know.
Are they inherent in the individual?
In the individual,
or is it generational?
is it generational?
No,
Is
I
it
don't think it's
taught?
either one. My take, and I hope this is like half an educational question answered, half a political question, is they've been taught to put the right bubble in the right line. That's what they've been taught, at least our generation we have now. It's going to take probably 6 to 10 years for the core curriculum to take hold, which is supposed to be about learning rather than teaching. And so I think it's going to take that long for us to get the results of this, the result of that, and get that here. But for the next, think about it, the high school students that are going to come to me have been taking standardized tests since they were in 2nd or 3rd grade. So the next 2 or 3 years, well, they're 8, 17, yeah. So for the next 9 years, we're going to have standardized test people who have started going through core curriculum and have started to learn how to learn.
I'm in Russell County Schools, my 6-year-old in 1st grade, and they started the core curriculum this year or whatever and it said there's a huge A on the kids, the learning curve, even from kindergarten. He didn't do it in kindergarten to 1st grade. There's been a definite adjustment that from homework that you're right. He will be probably one of the first. I know Russell County, but that's going to go all the way through to where, you're 12 years out. From a...
It's amazing. So this is the list, and Heather, I think, has a handout for you on that. But what employers in a lot of the research that's been done, they're looking for critical thinking, problem solving, innovation, communication, collaboration, that was mentioned, self-directed learning, that was mentioned, information and media literate, globally aware, civically engaged, and financially and economically literate. So yeah, I guess if students aren't learning these things in school, then where are they learning them? And maybe just in the school of hard knocks, like me or a lot of us, But these are some of the things when polled are some of the critical skills or what they consider 21st century skills. And certainly in the area of learning, it's one of the trends that we've seen over the past few years is certainly the adoption of new pedagogies and teaching methods, turning more of a learner-centered or constructivist method of teaching, where the learner is allowed to construct their problem and solve it and learn it, present it, synthesize it for their own learning rather than having a sage on the stage, so to speak. It's more of the instructors as the guide on the side, if you will. Some people use that phrase. And certainly there's been more move towards discovery, team-based collaboration type teaching styles or problem solving or curriculum activities in the classroom. That's certainly not news for you here in the education world. And certainly, no student or learner is identical. The 6 styles mentioned up here are learning preferences. Everyone learns differently. And so what's good about some of these new teaching pedagogies is they have something for everyone, where you're going to touch one student, whether it's a group activity or a single activity or a self, or soul study type course. Everyone learns differently. And what's interesting is I actually had a coworker, he's head of our healthcare department. He sent me an email on Sunday from his son's elementary school. And it was about ways parents could help their students succeed this year in school. And they had an article on kinesthetic learning. And they gave tips as to how the parents could help the students study and consequently learn for those that use their motor skills, and that helps them learn. And I thought, oh, this is amazing, because this is what we talk about. And it was just saying that most students start out as kinesthetic learners, but then some shift as they grow and mature. Some remain kinesthetic learners throughout their lives. And so what this article made me realize is, educators are talking about this, and they gave suggestions from, have your student move, group interaction, stand up. I mean, even fidget and chew gum. I mean, it was like, just anything to engage them. And in working with Steelcase and a lot of the research they do, which many times results in a product solution, it's the same things they were talking to us about with a chair that swivels, helps a student that fidgets in a class focus and learn. If they're a kinesthetic learner. So here was an article that kind of gave that, validation, if you will. So let's just take a look on our perspective chart, world learning learners, some things that are occurring with the learners themselves. Certainly we talked about social media. The learner has changed the way they communicate, all too well, being in media. And basically, I mean, students have access to computers, mobile devices, tablets, internet, information 24/7. And they expect to be able to access that information 24/7. And certainly with all the different ways of sharing information in social media, it's forever changed the way in which not only students, but many of us share and receive information. I know I'm recently joined on LinkedIn, and I'm figuring out what that means. And, because everyone in our company is now getting on it, and I'm getting friend requests, and but things from coworkers all over our previous coworkers all over the country. You talked about your having dependents, students having dependents, but the demographics have certainly changed. There's a new typical undergraduate in the world. 43% are 24 years or older. I think I was graduating at 23 or 24, and I took 6 years. 27% have dependents. I found that interesting because I know when I went to college, I couldn't have imagined having dependents. I mean, it's all I got to do to take care of myself. 80% work and 39% work full time. And that to me says that there's an awful lot on their plate that maybe some previous generations didn't necessarily have to deal with, like some of the students today. There's a lot to juggle. And Heather, I think you have a comment.
Oh, I do. I just want to say this slide really hits home for me because my husband's in school right now, studying computer networking, and he is obviously older than 24, and we have a daughter, and he obviously works full time to help support our family, and it's hard. I mean, for him he can only take 2 classes a semester, and to find that balance between, trying to earn his degree. And are you guys seeing that in your classes?
I was thinking about watching stepson and how he has 2 children that were, conceived basically to get to high school and then his college career, and how hard it was for him to actually finish through the program because he had these 2 little kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then he got married and divorced all before he was 25 years old. So.
And I know I worked when I went to school, but it was during the summers, or on breaks. But I mean, I didn't try to work full time and go to class and double major and all sorts of things. There's also more.
I love those students on that last slide.
You do?
Oh yeah, they're the best.
What do you like about them?
They're completely motivated. They want to learn. That's what they're here for. The motivation is crazy.
Oh yeah.
When they don't have time to do anything but just want to get in and
Right.
They actually
do their
value,
best.
Well, they have other things that are very important to them besides maybe a car payment or a motorcycle payment. They have a child or 2 children they have to work
a
with.
wife or a husband.
Yeah.
Yep. Interesting. Appreciate that comment. So there's more women enrolling in college. 56% are women. Obviously, that equates to more women will be going into the workforce.
Right on 56%.
Right
Right on track.
Heather altered this slide. Now this one I find really frightening, but that's just because I'm old. But today's student will have 10 to 14 jobs by the time they're 38. Really? I mean, that just seems crazy. I've had 5 employers, and I just can't imagine the amount of change that is. But it also, what the studies are indicating is that students have greater expectations of what they want out of a career. They want it to be professionally satisfying, personally satisfying, move to get that. But actually 72% said that they would take less money if they could find a personally satisfying and professionally fulfilling career. If you believe that or not, it's interesting, but I just find that just amazing that you would have that many jobs. The average time in a job is 4.4 years. So I think of my dad, in the military and in civil service for 30 years. Those days I guess are long gone for many people. And then certainly student expectations are changing. I'm sure you've probably seen this. Some of the common themes that we're seeing in terms of expectations is they want an engaging learning experience, access to technology, interactive classrooms, sense of community. We talked about social networks, and choices. Where to work, where to study, where to collaborate, where to meet up, all those sorts of things. So I don't know if you're finding these things to be true at MTSU. Most of the organizations we work with, the student expectations are high in terms of what the university or college or whatever needs to bring to them.
I've got a grant in right now to all our rooms have technology. Many of them have 50 or 60-inch screens plus computers. And we're looking at we have a grant in right now to purchase Apple TVs and Google Chromecasts to plug into the big screens so that the instructor and the students can put something up on that screen and be able to discuss it, rather than having to go through the instructor's thing or use the server, whatever. The student can just sit there with their iPad and AirPlay it up to the big screen. Now we can see what that student's doing.
We're seeing that
So,
more and
see
more
what that
and
works.
more and more.
Where they can all edit one document
Oh,
at the same
yeah,
time.
yeah.
So we were going to look at several questions here. Oops, that went a little too far. Again, Jenny, maybe you want to describe on the board. Just curious. We don't have to spend a lot of time on this. So how do you think you prepare your learners for the 21st century work skills? Is it through teaching methodologies? Basic curriculum?
I do what I call throw them in the event.
Okay, that's
Give them the basic information and then
and sink or swim. Okay.
doggy paddle as side if you can, but
That's, I
Jack
think
was
that
just
equates
float across the pool.
to the School of Hard Knocks, right?
I mean,
Okay.
They either learn it or they don't. I can only teach them in so many ways, and then they need to learn on their own.
Sure, sure. So do you think you accommodate a variety of teaching methodologies and approaches? And on the faculty?
Writing, video, discussion, projects, hands-on. In NASCO, we do a lot of all of this anyway. We do kinesthetic, we do oral, we do visual, because
So you
that's
try to get it
the
all.
nature of,
Yeah.
because we're very technology-based. That's the nature of it.
And what do you think you're doing to support the changing nature of student expectations? Changing facilities or upgrading, or just curious, there's no right or wrong answer here. So always just like to find out what our clients are thinking.
We're always adding extra classrooms.
Really.
Uh,
Is that specific to a major or?
the students pay a technology fee.
Mm-hmm.
And the departments basically each other.
Okay.
Or their work to be done.
That's interesting.
And then there's also set aside that some specific equipment and they can try to get the newest, the latest technologies in the classroom. That's a part.
So we
And
do
then
a lot of that in NASCO.
Okay.
TAP pays for the team spot or its emerging softwares. But yeah, like when they see new technology coming in for their discipline, they would request it and hope to get approval for it. They can try something new and different.
Interesting. You call those master classrooms?
This would be a master classroom. The technology, it can go into a master classroom type space or different spaces they're creating, like the recording industry department is creating kind of a new piano studio
Okay.
where they're going to be recording their music
Yeah.
and doing all that kind of stuff.
But I'm sure aerospace runs into this. A few years ago, they went from dial cockpits to what they call glass cockpits, essentially tablets on the screen. So they had that whole technology change. I'm sure engineering technologies has a lot of the same thing with automation, things that, again, work on tablets for other things. Any of us that are very technology-based have to react to this. We really don't have a choice.
Aerospace has a need for BAS from a grant rebuild. It's like you're in the tower.
Oh,
It's
oh,
like flight simulator,
oh,
and and
Got a
then
traffic control simulator.
yeah,
That's
and
cool.
you walk into this room and you can see the airport around you. It is really
Amazing. It's incredible what we can do now.
Try to see if
Yeah.
Herman Miller can do that.
What's that?
Try to see if Herman Miller.
That's
can do
right,
that.
that's right. So you know about Herman Miller, huh? Me too. So learning spaces themselves are changing. The Steelcase has found that there's about 4 commonplace learning space issues. And we'll just talk briefly about a couple of them as they apply to the changes needed in learning spaces. Obviously, your shift to the learner-centric environment, everyone needs to optimize their space. Campuses don't have unlimited space. And you're always trying to attract, develop, and retain students and faculty. And then support your technology, certainly is imperative. But what we're finding is...
How does number 3 work?
Number 3 was...
Retain.
Oh, we'll talk about that.
That's a big word for us right now.
We'll talk about that in a
Yeah.
second. So what we're finding is that these are not just classroom issues, they're campus-wide. I mean, more and more learning, teaching, collaboration starts in the classroom, doesn't end in the classroom, it moves out to all parts of campus, libraries, media centers, just like here. And students are working and learning everywhere on campus, so there's pressure on every part of campus to accommodate student needs. We sometimes call them in-between spaces. We all know about, the one-room schoolhouse from 100 years ago. I know my dad went to one. But, there's been a tipping point here for change in terms of the last 15 years, beginning to understand some changes are needed in the world of education. The constructivist, theories start to take hold. In the last 10 years, there's been pockets of innovation in terms of teaching. There's been more research on what the learning environment really means to the faculty and the students. And then certainly in the last 5 years, people have begun to understand that, problem-based learning works. And now there's studies and recognition that the environment, the learning space itself shouldn't be, it shouldn't inhibit that learning process, if you will. I don't know if you find this to be true here at MTSU, but if you look at teaching methodologies, classroom discussions are up 72%, group projects are up, team projects up 23%, and extensive lecture classes are down 46%. Is that what you might see here at MTSU? That's okay if you don't know the answer. Depends on the discipline, yes, and this is a generalized statement. I know we're seeing a lot less demand for lecture hall type furnishings and seeing more of a demand for flexible, very easily moved classroom furniture. And 54% of freshmen say that they work with other students on class assignments, and usually those extend beyond the classroom into the corridors and the lounge spaces and the libraries and media centers. And collaboration is definitely more part of everything that we do now, and some experts in collaboration say that in order to effectively collaborate, every person on that team has to have equal access to proper tools, whether it be whiteboards, technology, or whatnot, in order to effectively collaborate, share that information, and make it a truly meaningful learning experience, to share the outcome of their collaboration. So we're seeing a lot more spaces that support collaboration on campuses. And certainly the definition of learning spaces has changed. We mentioned that. We see lounge areas now where you can meet as a group, you can sit individually, work on your tablet or your PC or check email or whatever, or don't check email, check your texts, as some people now use, text only, I guess. And you mentioned online classes. 65% of students have now taken an online class.
7,000 FCSU students last year took an online class.
Well, and what we found, and I know some call them MOOCs, massive open online courses. But even if you're taking an online course, what we're finding from our clients is that students still need a place to come. They still have a desire to come together with classmates enrolled in that class. Either they want to, or there's a class assignment or a team project where they must come together. So are they coming together at MTSU or elsewhere? And so some of the folks we work with are trying to create places where they can encourage students online, come to our campus and collectively meet here. Space optimization we mentioned is important. Obviously, student enrollment has gone up. This projection just shows an increase of like 7 million by the year 2020. Space is always at a premium for colleges and universities, and space is always one of the most expensive costs that organizations have, second to people. And so you're always wanting to maximize that real estate, whether it's a new building you're building or refurbing an existing building. And we found that the average age of a building on campus is 42 plus years. And so those buildings were built, obviously, for teaching styles that are now outdated, before the internet, before we had projectors and screens and the need for all of the wireless and everything else. So it's hard to retrofit those buildings, and sometimes costly too. So we're finding that I just worked on one project that was an old building, and they literally gutted the building. It was architecturally beautiful, so it was worth gutting. But they didn't try to adapt the building to the new technologies that they started over. Heather, were you going to mention something?
I'm sure, well, maybe not for your department. I know it hits home for a lot of people on campus here. Obviously, when I was still at 1911, and I looked, and I think it's like 30 of the buildings on campus are older than the 42 years old shown on the slide. So the majority of the campus.
We had a meeting yesterday, and we were talking about the haves and have-nots on campus and how this side of campus is very new. And then somebody was saying, I walked out of Tech Hall and I walked to the new student union, and as you're walking, it's getting lovelier and lovelier. And then on my way back, I just got getting depressed. Just getting older and older.
The 50s, the 60s,
Yeah.
the 70s.
See the progression.
Yeah.
You
Decade
really
by
have.
decade, yes.
Well, and what's interesting, and I don't know if this is the case here, some universities are truly landlocked. I mean, you're in a certain vicinity and the city's grown up around you, and you can't necessarily keep expanding outward, nor if you want to. So in many cases, refurbing is necessary, or adding on to existing buildings and going higher.
Well, right now, from Peck Hall to the new student union is half an hour. And we have like 10 minutes between class. And if you have a student who is at the JUB and you can get over to the PAS,
Yep.
or even further out would be the college of ed now, the honors.
I mean, I remember
It's hard.
in elementary human sciences, where most of our classes were, and there was no way you couldn't schedule a class immediately following that one on campus. It just couldn't make it even late.
It's across the street.
Every time.
Interesting. Well, and if you look at what's important to students who are looking at universities, I mean, this just shows that 73% say facilities for their major are important, 53% say the library is important, sophisticated technology, and learning spaces are important. And the whole thing is, if you have to upgrade older facilities, it can be a real tool to help you attract and potentially retain students. So how can space positively influence your brand to attract, develop, and retain students? Just what we were just talking about. 70% of incoming freshmen say that college visits were very influential in the choice of school they ultimately selected. Do any of you participate in campus visits?
Todd,
You do, Todd?
I take students on tours, okay? and families on tours.
What do you show students?
In the School of Mass or College of Mass Comm, we have something called Main Street. It's a big, wide, central hallway. And on there we have our Wall of Fame, and we have biggest thing is the Center for Innovation and Media, which is a glass wall. I think they don't call it the pod anymore. But our 2 radio stations are housed there. The huge computer lab is there. There's a green screen studio behind it. That's like all the gee whiz stuff. And then I go towards the back, towards our studios, and that gets a little older, I guess, because they built all the rest on the front. But then I can take them into a huge studio with 18-foot grid and all straight. So we have a lot of gee whiz. Oh boy, that's really cool stuff.
So would that fall in the category of for their major?
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
Because basically we're saying you can use all of this.
Okay.
I mean, eventually you'll be able to use all of this. We have a big animation studio right up front where students are working on 3D animations.
We found that a lot of
schools easy.
that sounds beautiful. We found that a lot of schools will leave classrooms off the tour.
Yeah. I show them labs. In our case, it's computer labs or animation labs or studio labs or control room labs.
Interesting. We had a colleague who was showing her daughter around, and I don't remember what college it was, but apparently they had a blackboard in a classroom. And her daughter was highly offended because she's on an iPad, this, that, and she's like, I'm not going to school here if they're still using blackboards. So oddly enough, she was also saying that most campus tours, they did not show classrooms. That was not part of the campus tour, is to stop into the classroom. So maybe we know why now.
Well, part of that is that when they're doing the campus tours, our classrooms are booked. Are you going to get into one?
Gotcha.
I
Okay.
mean, I'm not faculty, I don't teach, but I would think that y'all would be teaching a master class and want to have a group of 30 high school freshmen walking through the class.
Yeah. True. Yeah. I mean, very valid point, obviously. The attract, develop, retain for students and faculty. This pertains to students. This is ACT's most recent study on retention from first to second year. It's at about 66.5%. So
Issue is a little better. I think it was 70.2 of the overall. I wonder if you might know I don't look for the data I found online. So I know it's a very important initiative on campus.
it is.
Retention of
Well,
students.
and school administrators, I mean, attracting and retaining, that's, first and foremost in their mind. I mean, not only for students, but faculty. And, it's a costly proposition to lose a student and or even have them go to a competitive. I mean, and it's a very competitive environment out in the education world now. And so what we're finding is a lot of organizations are using their facilities to attract students and hopefully retain them. I've got a photo of one here in a second. In technology, obviously we talked about that. It's important. You support technology here. 72% of faculty and 66% of students say it's important. But the point is only 15% use it. I don't know if you find that to be the case here, but this is what we've seen. And does that speak to professional development for faculty in terms of being familiar with the technology and using it, if it is in that classroom? Again, is faculty able to keep up? We talk a lot of times, today's students are digital natives because they grew up with technology. People like myself are digital immigrants. We didn't grow up with it, so it's not second nature. So if I had to come in here and develop a curriculum on here, it might be a little intimidating. So I'm sure that's the case with a lot of faculty. And of course, 92% of high school students say that technology is an important part of their college selection process. So it's like you're moving right along in that direction, though, in terms of technology in your classrooms. So anyway, let's look at some active learning environments, some actual examples. And I won't spend but just a second on this slide. This is a model that Steelcase uses with their clients. And it simply is saying that teaching methodologies, pedagogies, technology, and space all have to be planned simultaneously and at the same time in order for them to work properly and create that truly active learning environment. Steelcase offers a whole workshop on this topic, and that's certainly a next step we could offer to MTSU. It's a very interesting, truly a seminar on that topic.
And I did want to interject. I just wanted to, I know retention is so important and kind of on that topic. Just out this month in the Planning for Higher Education Journal, there was a whole research article done on Steelcase Education Solutions and how they did post-occupancy evaluations of some different active learning environments that they created, and it gives actual data on retention rates and how grades of the students improved, and just a whole myriad of different things. They told the professors and the students in the before typical lecture tablet arm, what you see up on the screen, classroom, and then in the more kind of interactive, active learning classroom, and actually saw that students were more engaged in class and were more interested and felt like that they would, wanted to come into the university. So cool.
Yeah, more and more research is saying that space matters in terms of student engagement is the net out of that. And I put this up here just for a little humor. Hopefully none of your classrooms look like that. Because there's a lot of barriers there. No flexibility. It's not, it's not exactly user friendly. Not much interaction for the faculty. It's hard to get to the students. It's set up more for lecture mode than group work or teamwork. Now I do visit a lot of places where there are a lot of classrooms like this, but I know you don't have any. So.
Maybe let's open.
Okay. It looks familiar to you, right? You've seen it too. So the next thing I'm going to show you is sort of a video animation. We've got many installations of this, but it's a chair-based solution for a classroom that what we want to call multimodal. It can support different ways of learning, and I'll just let the animation speak for itself. So set up as a typical. Well, of course.
You don't let you.
That's right. Yeah, I'm the digital immigrant. Thank you, Heather. So set up for a typical classroom mode, fairly dense. Happens to be a chair-based solution on wheels. It easily moves to group work. Instructors have easy access to students. The belongings stay with the students so you're not tripping over them during the change. Go to teamwork. You could bring in whiteboards if you want, much like we've done here today, just as a tool to use, and create teamwork environments. We've had several instances of solutions like this where teachers have told us it has really effectively changed the way they teach, and the speed at which they can change from individual to group mode has really been enhanced. We just did a project at Vanderbilt where we did several interactive classrooms like this, as well as we've done it for K through 12 as well. You could easily have set that up into discussion mode. And certainly there are table-based solutions as well that provide all kinds of flexibility. This one happens to be product specific. I wish it wasn't, but it just shows, again, how you can easily adapt to the multimodal classroom. And this particular one shows how you can easily set up for lecture mode, have great sight lines, visual access to all of your information. You can set up for testing mode very easily, have more individual study or test mode situations, display your information on easels or on rails, still using other technology in the room, group work. Again, just the point being it's highly flexible, easy to change, accommodates different teaching and learning styles, discussion mode. This is an installation at the University of Florida. This is something that still cases coined the term Learn Lab, which we have adopted, but it basically uses all four corners of a room where the students are all in swivel chairs. The instructor can teach from anywhere in the room or in the center. This one happens to have integrated technology at each table. You don't have to have that. But you've got the support of all your whiteboards around the room, and then this particular style of classroom uses what's called a triangulation of projection. The information is projected at 3 points in the room so that no matter where you're seated, because your chair swivels, you always have access to the information. The instructor always can see the information, or you can project two different things, or three, depending on your technology. And they found that these have been very effective as a teaching classroom for certain types of classes, with or without the embedded technology. And we actually have this in our own showroom, sort of a variation, right, Jenny? We adapted in an existing room for ours, but it works very well, and we use it for education seminars, we use it for employee training, we use it for lecture style, and it's really interesting to sit in a room with the 3 points projection. You always can see exactly what's up there and interact with each other very effectively. I recently had the opportunity to visit Virginia Commonwealth University, and they recently developed a very fascinating classroom. It was completely amazing. They used these tables based on a number of 6 students with the technology embedded in it. And this was a huge, huge classroom. I don't remember how many number of these pods they had, but they could accommodate 120 people in this room. And then on the floor above, they had the exact same thing. And so surrounding the room were projections, whiteboards, there were cameras and microphones embedded in the tables. And so this happened to be their School of Medicine. So the professor could be teaching up front, teaching on both floors simultaneously, with a docent in the room above connected by earpiece. The professor could show his information here, project it out to here if he wanted to, or one screen could have his information and the problem the students were trying to solve on the next. And so he could wander freely amongst all of this because there were microphones everywhere. And so let's say Jenny was sitting here and she had solved a really terrific problem. He wanted to share it with both classrooms. All he had to do was push a button here. The image would go up here to the next room on everyone else's screens, and he could describe how she resolved the problem. Very, very impressive. They could teach 320 students at once, and they have they told me during the tour that this has been an incredible tool for attracting students. That students have basically come right out and said, decision made after seeing this. We want to be with a cutting edge school like this. And their IT people were obviously in the project from the start to make all of this happen. I wish I had a photo, but I have a couple of installations. We're seeing more classrooms that have multiple areas depending on the type of learning that's taking place. I'll give you two examples here in Nashville. They're not higher ed, but it could easily apply to higher ed. We did a Simon Hughes Academy school over at Opry Mills, which is a school for folks that that have dropped out and want to go back and get their degree and go to college. So, for instance, they have a setting much like this where they teach foreign language class to a small group of students. And in another part of the room, they have a chair-based setup. It's very mobile. They can set up a discussion or teamwork, much like you saw. That's for their English class. And then they have more of a table-based solution for their math class because they all have students. And I'm about to wrap up here. Just want to be conscious of your time. The library is dramatically changing. Oh, I'm sorry, that's very dark. I apologize, it wasn't like that when we were looking at it. Let me do my best to describe it. Libraries are evolving, they're becoming more media centers, different places to study. This over here is showing more of a banquet or booth type setup, almost like dining booths, more table-based, more conventional computer or research information access space. This is actually a school our company did in Georgia. And libraries are seeing all kinds of change, whether that's individual work. We call this application benching. You might think of it as conventional library tables, but the thing is it's much more flexible. It can carry your wiring, or if your needs change in the future, you can easily add barriers or dividers or whatever it is you might need. We're seeing applications like this in a lot of colleges, media centers, libraries, that kind of thing. I even did one application of something like this in a tiered lecture hall, which carried all the cables for a computer lab. And it was very effective. It was one-sided though. Certainly you need, we're seeing in many places, a need to be private or have small conversations, or small group conversations, not small conversations. And then certainly team areas in libraries that include whiteboards, places for teams to collaborate and meet. Creating more of a room within a room, if you will. And again, just a different methodology. Every space is a learning space on campus, as we mentioned. We're seeing a lot more lounge areas turning into multi-purpose areas, where you have, don't laugh at this, we have what's called a big table that can or cannot have power in it, just depending on what you want, so people can plug in. They can meet as a group, team, or a lot of people are saying you can, what's the phrase, have their work alone together. So there might be 6 people sitting there, but they're all working on various things, or different types of secondary seating or other types of work or conversation.
I have a friend who has a co-working space in Austin, Texas, and she has everything you just.
Oh, really? Oh, really?
Yeah, many big tables, and she has the mushroom tables with the writing surface on
Yeah.
it, and campfires.
Uh-huh.
Link.
I did Spaces here in Nashville,
Oh, okay.
and they're,
It's a great open working space.
Oh, yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, and we're seeing this translate more to campus spaces every day. And good collaboration piece. This is a lounge type setting. I mentioned that for the foreign language. But we're seeing more spaces like this with the integrated technology in the lounge areas. this is a space, color-wise it's Vanderbilt, but these are some spaces outside of some classrooms where it was really a stairwell and it was just an open, unused area. So we ended up putting in sort of a collaborative big table area with whiteboards. There's some technology, informal meeting spaces, and then some cafe tables, and it's now used readily by the faculty and the students. And again, cafe spaces are becoming study spaces and learning spaces. I just finished a project that looks very similar to this, had banquettes with tables for laptops, cafe tables that faculty or students could get a cup of coffee, sit there, everyone's on their tablets, PCs, doing whatever they do. Many different collaboration areas. And again, I want to be conscious of the time. So the Rethinking Higher Education Spaces, you're going to be receiving a copy of this publication. It's on the flash drive we're giving you. And it contains additional information. We could show you hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of examples. But obviously, there's a limited amount of time, but there's many different ways, we can help you in your initiatives, whether that's working with campus planning facilities, or, for instance, we just finished working with Workspaces Academy. They wanted to create classrooms of the future in elementary, middle, high school. I know it's not higher ed. Those kids will eventually be higher ed. But so we did 3 very flexible classrooms, and they're going to use it for fundraising as well, to attract certain parents and students to come to school there, and also use it as a fundraiser. Well, we're seeing flexibility in this multimodal approach with just about every client that we're seeing. We wanted you to know that we are a resource to you and your facility. Heather passed out some information. We have access to tons of research. We have design capabilities. We love to consult. And certainly I'll leave you on this note that that active learning ecosystem is a workshop taught by students. If it's something of interest, we have this, get that scheduled for MTSU. It's not taught by me. We have access to many experts. And then one thing I will also offer to you, we have what we call a classroom test drive. We have a chair-based solution and a table-based solution that we loan out to clients. If they want to try in a classroom or in an innovation space, or let's say you wanted to set it up in here and try it, that's available to use for a period of time. That many people find helpful to actually test out some of these methodologies. We love helping people. I will say that. And we've got folks that know about MTSU. I hope some of the information we shared today was of interest. It seemed to spark some conversation, which is always good. Or maybe it just made one little light bulb go off. So that's always nice too. Are there any questions, concerns?
I came here because I have a dream of creating a co-working / makerspace.
Okay, we can help you do that.
I'm familiar with I owned a co-working space for a while, and I'd like to have one half of it be benches with soldering irons and supplies and things to make, and the other side being a space where students can work in collaborative environments. Because I know the value of collaboration in the professional world, especially my students in mass comm and media. That's where they're going to be. My students think they're going to get a job, but they're actually going to create their own job. I mean, that's generally how the world works right now for them. So I want them to learn how to do that.
I was reading an article, it's either last night or about 2 types of jobs are out there. Creative jobs, where you create your own livelihood, and service jobs.
Right.
So interesting. It's a little disturbing too. It's like a service job.
That's the question I ask my students, do you want to work at Amazon or do you want to work do a relations or do a DVD? You're not going to get a job. You're going to work for someone, but you're not going to work full time. Most students think they will work full time. That's what they're told. Go to college, get a
you'll
job.
What's your preparing? I remember when I was in school, I was prepared to, I thought I'd be doing exactly what I was learning in school, and what I got, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't use anything. I mean, my first job, and I mean, I still have the same purpose. I walked in and was like, what?
That's what I said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what subject do you teach?
Right, college.
College education. Okay. So you're
I got an idea.
you're teaching the teachers, future teachers. Any of this straight home?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it about how it creates bases to
Do you feel that it does help?
What's the it?
Just doing all those things, having a flexible classroom, having technology.
Oh, yeah, it certainly helps with those challenging teachers, great teachers that have that skill set.
Same thing.
And how does that change with you prepared teachers?
Is that professional development? Technology more effectively? All of the above?
Personality. I mean, it goes back to any career path that falls around the person. You can have a teacher that's somebody who's really good at wanting to teach, but doesn't have it.
And then to me, you've got the children going in K-12 right now that are on iPads in third or fourth grade, and what are they going to expect when they get to school? And
2.5-year-old.
Kindergarten.
My 3-year-old doesn't have it now. And my 3-year-old doesn't, he knows.
My daughter's 2.
And I don't let him use it, but I mean, he knows just seeing it around the house, he knows.
My kids are in first and third grade, and they're getting, in first grade, you're getting iPads in all the classrooms. And then in third grade on up, every other student will have a Dell laptop issued to them
Or
or
they
a
do all their note taking on the iPad. 'Cause I know our colleague was talking about her daughter at FRA. She's worried, I guess, about her writing skills, and they're expected to do everything on the iPad. There's no paper involved in her classroom.
Well, third grade, they're going to teach the kids keyboarding in the classroom. So we don't have cursive anymore.
Removed person.
We've removed cursive, we're adding keyboarding. So they will learn how to type in third grade. They'll be way more proficient than I am, probably. And then he has a learning disability that makes it writing very hard for him. So the school is okay once he is proficient typing that he can take his iPad with a keyboard attached, and he'll take all of his notes on that, and that's how he'll turn in his homework. We bought an air printer at home, so he can print any of our devices straight to the printer wherever we are.
Please know, I've mentioned still case a lot. We don't just work with just still case. We have many, many organizations. And we have tons of research information at our disposal. We all attend monthly classes related to education as part of our professional development. Like LEED certified, which is a green initiative. Others are certified designers. We really believe in helping our clients concentrate their we have locations in Atlanta, Birmingham, Nashville. So that just happened last January. It's been wonderful. It's been a whole new set of experience and things to bring our way. I happen to know people that purchased our company, worked with them for almost 20 years in Atlanta. They're a wonderful organization. Go to one of the top places to work in Atlanta. It's amazing. Private organization speaks well to their professional integrity. So we're thrilled to be part of that organization. And we all have a lot of very experienced thank you for attending today. We'd like to host you over to our showroom for an event or something at some time. And, part of what we're developing, we're also working on creating